You're listening to the Climate Dispatch podcast, presented by Sierra Club California and Angeles Chapter and Stranded Astronaut Productions. Available everywhere you listen to podcasts, we cover the stories of the climate crisis, from celebrating the wins to breaking down our fears, all while sharing collective hopes for the future. I'm Taya Jeanette, and today we're talking about the essential and relatively unknown Sacramento-San Joaquin River Delta, and our team's trip up to Northern California just to see it. California's relationship with water is complicated, to say the least. Today, we find ourselves disconnected from our water sources, with tunnels funneling across the state, ensuring there's enough water to go around for everyone. There's a constant balancing act between keeping ecosystems healthy and viable, while also spreading resources to the areas that need it. Meanwhile, ecologically rich places like the Sacramento-San Joaquin River Delta, located just about 50 miles northeast of San Francisco, are stuck with the consequences of messing with the natural flow of things. So what actually is the Sacramento-San Joaquin River Delta? Why is it important to California, and what threats is it facing today? We spent a day with Restore the Delta, which, as the name implies, is an organization with a mission to restore this ecosystem. They took us on a tour through Stockton, California, to view this evidently special place, the beautiful picturesque spots, and the not-so-healthy areas, meeting with the people who rely on it, love it, and want to protect it.
So, the Delta is a very interesting combination of the water bodies that we have here in California, where it's an inverted delta, if you will.
Spencer Fern, the science program manager with Restore the Delta, grew up on the Delta and now leads water quality testing of it.
Most deltas flow into the land. Our delta flows out to the ocean. And what that looks like is the Sacramento River on the north side of California to the San Joaquin River from the south end up merging at the center point by the bay, almost like it's a vein system of California, where it's like water's moving in these very intricate ways, but it all leads to the same place.
The Sacramento-San Joaquin River Delta is a vast inland river delta, located in northern to central California. It spans over 1,000 square miles of connected waterways, and it's also the largest estuary on the west coast, where freshwater from the Sacramento and San Joaquin rivers meets the saltwater of the Pacific Ocean, creating a highly productive ecosystem. Millions of people rely on the Delta, oftentimes without even being aware of it. 2/3 of Californians rely on it for water supply. That's roughly 27 million people who drink this water. To put that into perspective, that's nearly the same population as the entire country of Australia, or the combined populations of New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, Phoenix, Philadelphia, San Antonio, San Diego, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Jacksonville, the 11 most populated cities in the US. On top of providing a significant amount of drinking water to California residents, the Delta also supplies irrigation to 4 million acres of agricultural farmland. It's also a home to more than 750 species of plant and wildlife, and a frequent pit stop for migratory birds en route through the Pacific Flyway. This estuary that covers less than 1% of California's landmass is an ecological anchor for wildlife, agriculture, and Californians. But today, this ecologically special place is in danger of diminishing health, facing threats of low water flow from extraction, algae blooms, and damaging infrastructure projects.
I used to have a house not even that far from here with access to this canal here and exiting out into the San Joaquin River, but growing up I spent a lot of time boating on the Delta. I have a lot of memories growing up from the Delta, and what I thought was really interesting was growing up and then going to high school when I started to kind of recreating on the Delta much less than I was when I was a kid, was that people didn't recognize that the Delta was this access point. I was just always told that, don't jump in the water. It was, don't jump in the water, it's dirty. And again, like I mentioned earlier, was never an explanation why. And this was further enforced by the fact that I remember one time my father was was trying to get something off of our dock over there and ended up grabbing at the rope and sprained his wrist instead of jumping into the water.
I think, to understand the threats to the Delta, you have to understand the scope of the Delta.
That's Morgan Snyder, Director of Policy and Programs at Restore the Delta, and our other tour guide for the day.
And so the Delta spans all the way up to the headwaters, think like Shasta Dam, down through the Central Valley, because it's the convergence of these two rivers. And so there are threats that are ages old, right? So we had the gold rush that is still impacting the Delta today. There's methyl mercury from the gold rush still found in our waterways. And then there's the new contaminants with climate change. We're seeing the toxic algae growths. We're seeing other, declining species because of invasive species coming in. There's sort of like a convergence of all of these human and non-human threats that are sort of converging to a real existential place for the Delta.
I think it's important to note here that human activity has existed in the Delta for thousands of years, with European settlers arriving at already established tribal areas in the 1700s. This arrival disrupted the traditional ecological knowledge and practices of indigenous groups that had stewarded the river for generations. The settlers drained and changed the wetlands to better suit their interests. Then the gold rush not only brought further ecological destruction, but it was also coupled with the mass murder and displacement of indigenous groups in the area. These instances of destructive human activity were a glimpse into the future of how this area would be treated. Alongside the now lack of stewardship from forced displacement, continued development, pollution, and sidelining of ecosystem protection have led to the worsening health of the Delta over the last 2 centuries. A lot of the issues facing the Delta today come down to one underlying variable: flow. Freshwater flow in the Delta has been depleted over time from water extraction. From 1986 to 2005, the net outflow from the Delta was reduced by nearly 50%. Without adequate flow of water, the Delta is susceptible to issues that affect human, wildlife, and environmental health, like harmful algae blooms.
Statewide, there's been a harmful algal bloom problem. I think that goes from, it was introduced into the Delta in 1999. Had gotten progressively worse as climate change came up. When I mentioned that blooms are forming throughout California, it is an understood threat by scientists. What it is not understood by is by the general public.
Before the 2000s, harmful algae blooms, or as Spencer will call them, HABs, were a rare sight to see in the Delta. Nowadays, they're a consistent summer event. These harmful algae blooms make the water appear a bright green and pose significant threats to human and wildlife health. Freshwater is being actively diverted from the Delta to provide for the rest of California, and creating low freshwater flow that can activate these harmful algae blooms. They're further driven by rising temperatures from worsening climate change and nearby agricultural runoff with excessive nutrient pollution.
And what we continue to deal with at least from Stockton's point of view, but I can also say from other frontline Delta communities, is that this threat from blooms is not something that's understood by people who are getting into their boats, that are launching their kayaks off of HABs-infested water, which I have seen personally. And the goal of Restore the Delta is to get data as quickly as possible and then being able to broadcast this information. Part of that is also me going to public spaces where I'm able to give kind of quick TED Talks about like the importance of knowing what's wrong with our water, coming from somebody who grew up and knew that the Delta was dirty, quote unquote, but never was really ever explained why the water was dirty. So we're talking about one aspect of the reason why that there's this pollution problem in the Delta, but it's one that like really impacts people's access to water.
And Stockton, where we are right now, has the worst water quality in the entirety of the Delta. We get the dredges of what is left from the various streams and the water uses throughout the Delta. So we would see a continued degradation of that water quality. We also have 7 endangered fish species currently in the Delta, and the one we all know well is the salmon. And the salmon are a culturally significant fish species. They're really important for our tribal friends. They're a really important source of protein and food for a lot of people. And so seeing the decline of the salmon populations has been devastating across the board. There's a huge commercial fishing. It's a $1.5 billion commercial fishing industry out of the Delta as a whole, you know, going out to the ocean as well. So we sort of see all of these economic and cultural losses as more and more fish get added to the endangered species list. And I think, you know, we hear a lot about the Delta smelt.
The Delta smelt is a small, once abundant fish that is incredibly important to indicating the health of the Delta. It's an endemic fish, meaning it only exists there. And today, the species is critically endangered, mostly due to human activity. Water diversion from the Delta, habitat degradation, and climate change are all driving the species to extinction. You might have heard of them more commonly last year, when the current administration turned their attention to the ongoing conservation efforts of the Delta smelt, calling them an essentially worthless fish. In reality, the Delta smelt and their critically endangered status offer an important warning of the diminishing ecological health of the Delta itself. If the Delta smelt disappears in the Delta, it's gone for good, and the ecosystem would be changed forever.
But the way I see the Delta smelt is as the canary in the coal mine, right? They were the first endangered species to really sound the alarm bells that something was wrong in this ecological system. Yeah. And so we are likely to see continued declines in these fish populations.
Have you ever wondered what businesses are doing, or should be doing, to confront climate change? The award-winning podcast, Climate Rising, from Harvard Business School, is tackling these questions and more, with over 1 million downloads today. Recently named one of the best environmental podcasts by Earth.org, Climate Rising offers an exclusive glimpse into how entrepreneurs, business executives, and policy leaders are addressing climate change. Each episode explores cutting-edge strategies from climate storytelling and marketing to decarbonization and beyond. If you need a place to start, dive in with their 4-part miniseries about regenerative agriculture and why it's increasingly central to conversations around climate resilience, farm economics, and food system risk. Follow the Climate Rising podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Despite the issues facing the Delta, it remains an important place to farmers, fishermen, and the people living around it who understand how much it provides. If there's anything we took away from our tour with Restore the Delta, it's that this Delta is special.
I think the Delta's got a calm quiet to it. Those points in times when you're sitting still next to the Delta, or you're like, if you're on a levee point or if you're on a boat sitting in still water, it can just be very quiet, peaceful. It is very still in various parts of the Delta, and I think this brings this like Zen state, if you will, or peaceful serenity, if I'm going to be using all the buzzwords. But you know, it's a calming nature.
It's got these beautiful, scenic, pristine waterways that create this incredible estuary. It's one of the few biodiversity hotspots in the world. And you can see, like, just sitting out in the Delta, hearing all of the different birds, watching the fish, watching kids and families recreate on the Delta. It's such a special and unique place. I mean, you don't get that feeling anywhere else in the world. Yeah, it's a really, really special place.
That fact remained evident as we visited a nearby fishing spot, where the Delta's 55 species of fish swim and people gather for a day on the Delta. There, we met up with Bud Chaddock.
I'm a fisherman. I grew up in Southern California as a little wharf rat going fishing. Used to ride my bike to go fish on the pier, and done some stuff with Fish and Wildlife in LA, tagging rockfish, abalone, sea urchin. Used to build boats for a living. The LA lifeguard boats, I helped build those. I made my own little boat, so I was like a little of everything on the water.
Safe to say, Bud knows a thing or two about fish.
So I brought it up here. First day on the Delta, I caught 2 15-pound stripers. I didn't even know the area. I just use my fish finder, my eyes looking for birds diving, like terns diving on bait. Just like the ocean, it's the same. Nature tells you what is there if you just are quiet enough and observant enough to watch. And I feel like that's where some of us see things, some don't. And there needs to be that bridge brought back together for everybody.
Humans have been subsistence fishing in the Delta for thousands of years, and that practice has continued into the modern day. A 2021 California Department of Water Resource report found that about 90% of people surveyed in low-income communities of color in the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta region reported that they eat locally caught fish 4 or more days per week. Subsistence fishing plays a central role in the lives of people around the Delta. But the practice of fishing stands for more than just food. It's also about reconnecting with the natural environment around you.
It also, feeds a lot of people, as far as some people do it recreationally and will occasionally eat a fish. Or this is a nursery, if you would, for, say, salmon and stuff, and that's something that commercially on the coast has a high economic value. And needless to say, there's a lot of people on the water because everybody's trying to get their piece of the action, if you would. But you got to figure we kind of self-imposed a 2-fish limit. A lot of guys said, hey, we got to cut this halibut down to 2 because no one's fishing salmon now. Or it's closed. But fishermen understood, and so they went from 3-fish catch limit to 2 because the fish needs to get to 18 inches of halibut to spawn, minimum.
Every ecosystem relies on balance, and fishing communities understand this well. The native Chinook salmon season has been closed in this region entirely in recent years due to the issues facing the Delta. There's an understanding that something in this ecosystem is off, and we all need to be a part of repairing it.
Well, to me, it's flow. I mean, it's just like you having blood going through your arteries and you having water go through to filter your kidneys at the proper level. Now, my creek, I could show you where there's a fish ladder that was built thinking that they were going to get up there to spawn. Well, now we do not have the water up above it. Restoration needs to be done. So it's easy to break something, but it's much harder to fix it. It's like breaking a vase that's in 50 pieces. Now you got to glue it back together. It's still not going to look the same. It's going to impact a lot of people. There are some people that depend on catching a fish or to eat. You wouldn't think so, but there's some that do. We need to rebuild what we can.
Yeah.
We need to use better practices on some of it. We need to educate people more on the resource that's here. Mm-hmm. You want a kid 30 years from now to be able to see some of the same things that I have seen. And to me, I think that's the biggest loss that you would have, is not being able to pass it on to different generations.
As I was interviewing Bud, our team met Eddie, a local out fishing with his son, hoping to instill some of these values in the next generation.
I came out here to bring my son. I'm trying to introduce him into bass fishing. I didn't start fishing until I was around, 22 years old, 23 years old. My parents they're immigrants from Mexico, but I was born here. I grew up out here in Stockton.
Did you grow up fishing out here?
Actually, I didn't. I learned to fish off YouTube, really.
Really?
But yeah, I did. I learned everything off YouTube. I'm basically an outdoor advocate. I love being outdoors. I love being out here fishing. One day, I just decided to fish, and I was fishing where I wasn't supposed to. The old manager, he picked me up in his truck, and he brought me right here. He's like, fish here, you're gonna catch fish. And yep, I started fishing here, and this is my stomping grounds here, You can't beat it. You just can't beat it. It's not just always about the fishing. It's not. The way we're going now with electronics and everything is kind of really detaching the youth. It's detaching them from life. And I think they need to really ground themselves and, be outside and kind of remind themselves that life is not easy, not for the birds, not for the fish, not for us, you know what I mean? Have you found any kind of friendships or community? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, fishing is about being coming back in touch with yourself, and it's not just fishing, being out here, enjoying the Delta for what it is.
Those who enjoy the Delta for its calm demeanor and wildlife abundance aren't turning a blind eye to the issues facing it.
From what I see, the Delta is just getting worse and worse. I don't think introducing tunnels and pulling water flow out of here, I don't think that's going to do any good. I think as a community, If there's something you guys feel like you can do, or, you know, I don't know, sign petition, something, I think go for it, you know, don't hold back. We only live once and we don't want to live with regret, you know what I mean?
There's a huge push for restoration right now, and I think the key to understanding that is that flows are habitat. Flows are critical for fish species to survive. We're seeing all sorts of degradation to water quality. We're seeing sinking land in the delta from the oxidation of peat soil. So it's both sort of the threats to the waterways as well as the threats to the land use and the historic use of the delta as a whole. And then of course there's the infrastructure threats to the delta, like the Delta Conveyance Project.
The aforementioned Delta Tunnel stands at the intersection of the biggest existential threats facing the Delta today. Already threatened by freshwater diversion and low water flows, the Delta Tunnel would further divert water away from the Delta's waterways to other parts of the state, potentially leading to critically low levels of freshwater flow.
You can invest all of the money into, you know, habitat spawning grounds or like upstream grounds that the fish historically use, but if they don't have the flows to get to those places, if they don't have the flows to swim back out to the ocean, they're not going to survive as a species. You need the whole system to work together.
So here we come back to this idea of flow. The Delta needs its water, and California at large also relies on its water. This powerhouse of California's water system is being pushed to its limits, and if more infrastructure projects keep taking from it without reckoning with the health of the Delta, it could lead to a lot more issues down the line. In our next episode, we'll dive into the history of the Delta Tunnel project, the fight against it, and what the Delta could look like if we invest in true restoration and resilience projects. Playing us out until next time is Into the Water by Tanya Iyer.
Into the water, into the water, into the water, into the water. I lose my way and throw it down this fire. It burns me to the ground. I lose my way and throw it down this fire. It burns
Hi, it's Megan from the Sierra Club Angeles chapter. If this episode moved you, I'm here to invite you to turn that energy into action. Support our environmental and social justice work today with a donation at sierraclub.org/California. Every win for climate and justice starts with a community. Join ours at sierraclub.org/California.
The Climate Dispatch is a podcast by Stranded Astronaut Productions and Sierra Club California and Angeles chapter. Produced by myself, Tay Jeanette, and Megan Spatz. Audio engineering and editing by Maxfield Biggs, and original theme music and score by Phil Hamilton.